Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Mastering Midlife, How to Thrive When the World Asks the Most of You. Today's episode, I asked my friend and colleague, Ken Blackman, to join us to talk about dating in middle age. Dating after most of my clients have been married or probably divorced or separated and trying to figure out what the next steps are and how to jump back into this relationship dating pool. Ken wrote an amazing book called Powerful Women, Confident Man, a new art of loving passionately and building a resilient and fulfilling relationship. And that's a great topic, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're going to have Ken back to talk about long-term loving relationships. Now we're talking about the shark-filled waters of dating. Ken, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad to be here.
So this is where you get to have your opening statement on dating in the treacherous waters after 40.
Well, the good news is that we as we've gotten to this age, it's highly likely that we've started to realize that the real reason why we're drawn to each other, the real reason why we're together in the first place, the real reason why we even think in terms of relationships or any of that is to experience connection with another human being. And when I work with young couples, that is something they have to learn, they have to discover. Like, we have all these ideas about what it is that we want, but at the base is two human beings who are experiencing connection together. And all of the greatest plans we have, all the visions of the person, the ideal person, of the things we want to do, of the life we're going to have, really all of that is just it's a foundation. It's our best guess as to what we think is going to give us an opportunity to experience connection with another human being. Because, you know, if I'm an entrepreneur, if I'm successful, if I've made it in the world, you know, there's so many experiences that I can have as a human being. Like, you know, going to the finest restaurant or the best downhill ski slope, all these life experiences that I can do alone. I don't need another human being, right? Most of life's experiences I could do alone. And so then there's this missing piece, this nutrient that all of us hunger for, that I call human connection. And everything around, you know, getting married or all this stuff is it's just that one thing. And if people understand that the real reason why both of you are there, no matter what comes out of your mouth, no matter what you think, the real reason that both of you are there is to experience connection, then you have a basis to actually build something amazing with pretty much any human being.
When you say it that way, it kind of wipes off the table all the checklists that we need in a relationship, right? You know, they become less important when we realize what we're really after is connection. And when we look at the checklist, we're thinking those are the things that are going to make a match where we're going to be connected. And you're saying that the other is primal.
Right. Exactly. And, you know, I get people all the way down to the basics of you are two human beings, you know, the basic human need for connection. Then everything else that's true about us, men, you know, men versus women and different, like all of our preferences and our backgrounds and our cultural heritage and all the things that we want in our life, like all those preferences are amazing, but they're games. They're games that two people can play together in order to create a setting where we can experience connection. So if I can get people down to the basic level of human connection, so you and the person sitting across from you at the table at dinner, and both of you are nervous and like it's awkward and all that stuff. The truth is you're two human beings and you both are there because you want connection. And if you can get to that level in some small way to just pull the mask off and invite whoever you're with at the moment to just play from there just for a minute. Like, even if it's just for a split second, it's just like, you're a human being, I'm a human being, you know, then all of a sudden that person that you're with has experienced something that they didn't realize they were hungry for. And all of a sudden, then you can step back into all the games of, you know, what do we want to do? You know, does the man pay? You know, all the fun richness of it becomes a fun game that two people can play together.
That sounds excruciatingly intimate
Yes,
and difficult, and then also relaxing on the other side. Like
totally.
there's no work that you have to do. Once you get over that initial fear of opening yourself up that way, because in text, it's like you don't even want to say, the millennials will say, you don't even want to say that you like someone.
Right.
You don't want to call someone within 2 days. And this, what you're saying is open up. I really want connection. So let me set the stage here. So I am a divorced man or woman with 2 kids. I'm 47 years old and I'm on a date for the first time.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah, well, you and the person probably your demographic of people that you'll be dating, you've been around the block a few times. You can afford to just tell it like it is, and um, that's the advantage that we have is that we can afford to not put on airs and just be ourselves. Um, and
Now I'm going to challenge you on that. Can we? Because my experience has been we've been hurt by the relationship that we're in. Our self-confidence isn't what it was when we were younger because we don't look. We probably got dressed 3 different times before we went out because we just didn't look right. Things are sticking out where they shouldn't stick out, and things are sagging where they shouldn't be sagging, and we just are self-conscious about.
totally,
So how do we get to being ourselves and being vulnerable in that situation?
yeah. So I recommend just having a mantra like, yes, all that stuff is important. Yes, you want to look your best. Yes, you may show up and vibe with the person in front of you and they don't vibe with you, right? Like all of those things can happen. But if you can remember that it's all just a game and that underneath all that is just 2 people who are going to have connection. And if you can have that as a mantra, that at some point in the evening, you are going to, because this is going to be necessary for you to have anything in the future with this person, right? All of that stuff, getting the right outfit, thinking of your list of topics that you're going to talk about so that the conversation doesn't end, right? Like, oh, how do I look? Am I carrying too much weight? Who's going to like me? All those things are at some point, if you want to move forward, at some point, all those things get you into the game. They get you on the playing field. So you're at dinner, you're do you order the wine for your partner? Do all those things at some point, make a promise to yourself. You're going to move all that away and you're just going to say something real. Because I'm telling you, that is what's going to make the evening memorable for both of you. And that is going to be the seed and the basis for anything that happens again. Like when the evening ends and you're saying, I really enjoyed that. I'd like to do it again sometime. And the other person says, yeah, that was really something. I'd like to do that again sometime. It's not going to be because you wore the right earrings or because you wore the right outfit. It's going to be because you had a moment of connection. So think of all that stuff. I'm not telling you not to stress about it or worry about it, because we're going to worry about it. We're going to stress about it. I'm saying think of that as the setting, and that there isn't an ideal thing that you're going to say. There's just going to be a moment when all of that falls away and you're just 2 human beings and you have a moment of connection.
You just gave me an aha moment when you said, it's not going to be the right earrings or whether or not you ordered the wine or not. That's going to decide whether or not you guys move forward. It's going to be 1, the vibe that's not even said, right?
Right.
And 2, it's going to be those authentic things that made a connection. I think the earrings and the hairdo and all that stuff is for either a first impression or for us to feel better about ourselves when we go out, so we can be more relaxed. I do know I'm more relaxed if I'm comfortable with the way I'm dressed, with the way I look, with, I just stop thinking about those things. If something's too tight, I'm self-conscious that they can see that that's too tight and I don't feel comfortable. But but to get to that point where you realize that if you're going to have a second date, a third date, or even a relationship, it's going to be that intangible. That takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, yeah. And you said something so important, and it was actually what I was going to follow up with, which is, this is the hardest thing that I'm going to say on this call. And it is like the uncomfortable truth that none of us want to look at, which is, if you don't like yourself, if you fundamentally don't feel comfortable in your own skin, if you just dislike yourself or have low self-esteem, bringing another human being into your life is not going to compensate for that. So the prep work that you need to do, and this gets back to what you said, the prep work you need to do is the things that you need to do in order to like yourself better. Like what needs to happen that you like the outfit that you're wearing in the mirror, that you like who you are as a human being. And I'm talking big and small. You hit it the nail on the head. Like if you dress for how you like to look, if you dress so that you like how you look and orient towards that, you will be the person who shows up in the date in a way that feels good to the other person. Just like yourself and be open to the possibility of liking the other human being. That increases your chances 1,000-fold.
Now, you've coached hundreds of people. How do you help people do that preliminary work before they even go out into the dating pool?
I just have them make a list of all the things they hate about themselves. And like, we do it from a fun place. Like, it's excruciating and it's painful, but it's also a light, fun exercise, right? Where I want you to exaggerate all the things about you that are disgusting. And I'll join you in telling you how disgusting all those things are. And we'll just delve into like this list that drives you crazy. And we're going to look at it, and we're going to dive into it, and little by little, the emotional charge on it starts to dissipate, and you can get to a place of neutrality around it. And then you can like take that list and filter it into two categories. These are the things that I want to change about myself. Like the only reason ever to complain or dislike something is one of two things. You have been putting off the work of changing it, and now you're going to change it, or you do the difficult work of coming to accept it and coming to love it and coming to recognize that it makes you who you are, and that you're a right human being even with those things. Those are the two categories that you have. I have this phrase, all complaint is actually one of three things. If you're complaining to somebody, right, it's three things. You're gearing up, you're revving up your engines to change, you're moving yourself towards acceptance, or you're bragging. Right? Because if you're complaining and it's not, and you don't plan to change and you don't plan to accept it, all you're doing is bragging about how awful your life is. Right? You're trying to get someone to be impressed with how fucked up your life is. So really it's the first two, right? Like, let's get serious and do the work to have you be okay with yourself, to have you like yourself. You are a right human being. Like, the universe got it right.
Oh God, so the way you are means the universe got it right.
Yeah.
Your version of God don't make no junk.
Right. So, and the deeper work, like this would be something that if I'm actually working with someone over time, right? Like the deeper work around that is, we're going to look at how, like, people come to me and they say, I hate this about myself, but I keep doing it. You can't break out of that until we get to the base level of, what are the real reasons why you're doing that? What are the real reasons? And there is genuinely a payoff. And when you acknowledge there's a payoff, it isn't a judgmental thing. You actually recognize, oh, this was a mechanism that served me at a certain time. You acknowledge that it was that you made the right decisions and that it's time to change that behavior, right? But you can't, as long as you're saying, this is bad, I do this bad thing and I can't stop myself from doing it, and you don't look at the fact that there was a rightness to it, like if seen in the best light, what purpose is that behavior meant to serve? What is it protecting you from? What is it, like all those things? Then you can start to feel the rightness of how you got to where you are. That is the freedom and agency to start to make changes, right?
I love how we can use everything as a practice. So
Yeah.
for me, when people are entering midlife, when we talk about these things, it's a time to evolve. It's a time to take stock, to take an inventory of who we are, how we're living our lives, what is our relationship with everything in our lives, and then how do we want to go moving forward? Because in order to avoid the crisis that we usually generate to make us change, we need to go introspective. And then after going introspective, I don't believe that that's a one-time thing. The introspection is how are we going to be in our 40s, our 50s, our 60s, our 70s? What you're saying is this dating thing and the work that we're going to do before we go dating is another way to practice. What is it that I like about myself, I don't like about myself? How can I work with those things so that when I go out on a date, I can be authentically as possible me, to give me the best chance of connection?
Right. And there's something else at play here too that's worth talking about, which is, so there's the frontal cortex where we do all our heavy thinking, abstract thinking and math and concepts. Then there's the kind of brainstem, which is the reptilian brain that fight or flight. Keeps your heart pumping, regulates your nervous system, all that stuff, right? Then between those two, there's this group of brain structures that are kind of informally referred to as the limbic system. And the limbic system is where our emotions are. And emotions, believe it or not, like the reason that social animals have emotions and reptiles, for example, don't have emotions. Social animals have emotions because emotions are a form of communication. So if I'm in a group in the savannah, and let's say, before language and all that stuff, we're just a group of a group of social animals, and one of us gets frightened or scared. It is useful for the rest of the group to also feel scared, right?
Mm-hmm.
If one of us is calm and happy and playful and kind of playing around, the others calm down, right? It is a form of communication. So our emotions are contagious. They're catching. So guess what has someone like you is you liking yourself. Like the biggest factor of someone liking you is if you like yourself. If you like yourself, they'll get on board. So I've seen the very overweight people all the way down to the skinniest people, and everyone on that entire spectrum, including in the middle, there are people who don't like their bodies. They don't like their bodies. Well, that's a form of communication. There is no way anyone's going to like your body if you don't like your body. And I've also seen people who are overweight all the way to skinny and scrawny who like themselves and like their body and show up that way, and everyone around them likes them, right? Mm. So if you do the work to get into the state that you're a likable human being, and you genuinely
likable to yourself, because you may be likable, you just don't know it.
Right. Yeah, we're hardest on ourselves, and then we unconsciously deposit that way of thinking into the person in front of us, and they catch it contagiously, non-verbally. So the same thing happens if you genuinely like yourself. It is simply contagious. That this was a turning point for me, because I don't know if your audience can tell or knows this, but I'm not a tall human being. I'm literally 5'0", right?
There's nothing for scale in the video that would tell anybody that you weren't 6'4".
Great. So 20 years ago, I was a software engineer. I was successful by most measures. I was like software engineer at Apple Computer. And I was successful by most measures, but I was terrible when it came to the opposite sex. Terrible. Like I was bad, and I was a walking encyclopedia of all the ways you can be bad with the opposite sex. Dating, relationships, like I won't even give you the list. But you know, I thought that I was hopeless. I thought I'm unattractive, I'm not athletic, I'm not wealthy, I'm not, charming, I'm not outgoing, I'm not social, I'm not, any of these things, right? I'm not tall. So
You don't get to write your own personal ad. I'm telling you that right now, right?
right, exactly. But what shifted for me wasn't that like it wasn't that I figured out some trick or some pickup move or some, way of presenting myself that would kind of compensate for these shortcomings or something. Like it wasn't that. What happened was I started to change how I felt about myself, and I showed up in a different way. And that is the thing that the opposite sex wants, right? Like it's not, I didn't cheat my way or trick my way into having great, fantastic, wonderful, fulfilling relationships. I just got into right relationship with myself. I realized how unimportant those things were, right? And even to the level of, I'm going to get a little racy here, but like when I date a tall woman, one of the questions I get asked is, well, what happens in the bedroom? Is it awkward? Like, is it weird? And the answer is no, right? The answer is no. None of those things matter. Like I've dated super tall women, and the things that the point being, all the things that we think matter don't, right? And so this gets back to that basic level of humanity, where if I'm just a human being with another human being, all of a sudden there's a connection, and we're starving for that. We're starving for that.
I agree with that. We're definitely starving for a relation. So now let's turn this around.
Okay.
So we go out on a date and we don't feel connection with the other person. We feel great about ourselves, but the other person just isn't cutting it. We're feeling their vibe.
Right.
What do we do? And I've heard this question over and over again. I went out on a date. They were a lovely person. It wasn't a match. And now they want a second date. What do you do? How do you get out of that?
Okay. So I'm going to give you like beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Thank you.
So if let's go back to being in the date, and you're starting to realize this isn't a connection, right? So first of all, you're there. There's another human being there, and you're presumably in a setting. You're not in a jail cell. You're in a setting where something interesting could happen, just in terms of the environment. So check in with your set of criteria. Check in with your goals, and check in with yourself about what had you so quickly rule this person out. And is there before you leave, is there the opportunity to somehow, because I'm 95% sure that what's happening there is that you're interacting with their facade. They've got their facade up so thick that you can't get to connection. Because if there was connection, there's a chance, if you took any two human beings and put them on a desert island, they would figure out how to have connection with each other. And if they were there for 10 years, they would be besties. And there's a chance that there might have been some genital contact. So before you write this person off, like, it's so easy to get into a speed dating mentality. Like, you can tell in the first 3 seconds whether you like this person or not. So I'm going to challenge you to, at least during the date, go an extra mile to have fun during the date. Go an extra mile to invite that person out from their facade and just have a moment of connection. Do that work. Even if you don't even if you still don't want to have another date after that. Like do the work because it's great. It's fantastic practice, right? Okay, so you're a little bit more advanced than the person in front of you. You're going to have to do a little bit more of the work than they're willing to do. You're rowing both sides of the boat. Do it anyway. Why? Because you're there and there's this other human being. So do what you can to have that moment of connection. So
Wow.
that's the first thing.
That's
Okay.
that. I actually do that in networking meetings. I'm not a big fan of networking meetings. I'm an introvert, but when I go and I connect with people, and there's the popular people, there's the people who I think can do something for me, and then there's the people who are undateable, right?
Yeah.
And I've really made a conscious effort to find out about them. All right,
Right.
so let's go intermediate.
Okay. So intermediate is that moment of connection. Like if let's say you're repulsed, you check in with yourself. You just can't seem to do the work to get past the fact. In 5 minutes, this you genuinely don't want to be there. So the intermediate is have that be a point of connection. Like I'm just going to tell you up front because it's better. It's better than both of us sitting here pretending, and we may have a moment of realness. And I like to be real with people, so I'm just going to tell you I don't think there's a future for us. I'm not really vibing with this, and I'm just telling you because that in itself is a way to connect. Like
It's
this,
real. It's an honest
yeah,
statement.
yeah.
Wow.
And like if there's something you can tell them in a loving, supportive way that is a form of feedback to them that would be useful to them, not a criticism or a complaint, but like have that be the point of connection.
It would have been nice if you bathed before we went on this date.
Right, right. Perfect example.
I can see with men. I see that as being, to me that's advanced. I also see it being not women not feeling safe, just wanting to extricate themselves from the situation. And that's my own uncomfortableness with telling the truth and doing something like that.
Yeah, you don't want to there this is presuming like good. I presume good faith. Like there's a lot of bad stuff happening in the world, and yeah, you're right. But I go into something presuming, due diligence and good faith. So yeah, this is you have to feel right about yourself. Like okay, I'll be honest. So I'm a coach. I do this for a living, and I've been doing it for 20 years. It's my day job to say uncomfortable things to people
Right.
in a way that they're grateful for the feedback. They don't feel criticized. They feel like they got something useful and valuable because of how I am, how I feel about myself, and how, all these things. So it's a more advanced thing, but you can get to the place. And this is a relationship skill. This is something you're going to have to be good at. So think of it this way. If you tell someone an uncomfortable truth and they can hear it and it lands and they're glad and grateful, man, what a point in their favor in terms of having a future with them. Like I'd much rather have someone that I can tell the truth to and have them have it land and have like actual, moving forward and moving towards something that is good than the ideal checklist person who is stuck the way they are and doesn't listen.
Makes sense. So what's the advanced? If you've already got me sweating, so let's go to the advanced.
I don't know. I think I blow my wad. I don't think there's a higher level than
Good,
this.
because that to me, I'm practiced at this also, and I'm sweating when it comes to that. But that's a really good piece of advice, as honest and as authentic as you can possibly muster to be, to say this isn't a match, and if you feel like you can share it without it being a criticism,
Yeah.
so that may serve the other person. outstanding. And if you don't feel safe, absolutely don't do that.
Yeah. And you can ask them, like, you know, you're at dinner, and you can just have a moment where you say, how honest can I be with you right now? And then you can say,
I don't even
I'd
like
like
that in my long-term relationship.
I'd like to give you some feedback. I don't think it's going to be flattering, but it's going to be a hell of a lot real than what we've been doing up till now. Are you game to play? You know, like, just make it an invitation to play at a deeper level, because that's like, don't put it off. Like, do it in the first date, however small, however tiny, however small you can manage to have that moment of connection. Don't wait. Like, you may wait until the third or fourth or fifth or however long you wait, or maybe you won't wait at all. You know, maybe you jump into the sack with someone, but you have your rules for how many dates you go on before things get physical, right? Have a rule about how, like, don't postpone. If you're going to postpone physical intimacy, don't postpone emotional intimacy. Like, have it in the beginning, because that's the thing you're both there for.
Wow. That's a good tidbit. So before you even think about jumping in the sack, check with yourself. Have you been emotionally connected to this person?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's not quite how I meant it, but that also is true, right?
So correct me. How did you mean it?
Well, I was using physical intimacy as a metaphor, like, you know that you have your rules for what prerequisites need to be there. I do agree with you, by the way, that some kind of emotional connection. This is a preference of mine. Not every, like, there. If it's a booty call and both of you know that it's a booty call, let it be a booty call. Like, I'm not averse to that. My personal preference is that sex is so much better when there's some kind of connection. So definitely do have it be that.
I'm so glad you threw that out there, because, so many of the people that I work with who have already been in long-term relationships, have children, and are out there, they just need to break the ice. They just need to have something that isn't so heavy, isn't so important, and
Oh
have
yeah,
some fun. Uh,
I've
no one size fits all here.
yeah. So I'll tell you a story. I was working with a woman. She was single, and we were working through like, there was, every guy was the wrong guy, and we started to work through the internal barriers that she obviously had that made it result in the same thing every single time, right? 10 completely different guys, same result every time. Something's going on in here, right? So we started to work through, and I just made her make a list of the experiences that she wanted to have. And I made her go out and have just that one experience, nothing more and nothing less. Like, she got so laser in she had friends in her life so that she could do this with. She also went on dates with new people, but she got super laser. I had her say, instead of saying, ruling someone out, say, what would I want with this person? And it could be anything. Like, I would have fun playing checkers with this person once a month. I would have fun having this be my movie partner. I want to have. One of the experiences I want to have is to wake up in the morning snuggling with someone. And I made her go out and have that experience.
Wow,
So,
that's
like,
powerful. I like that.
would you be willing to sleep with me? No sex, just sleep with me, next to me. We'll cuddle, and the experience I really want to have is waking up to spooning with somebody. Are you game to do that? No more and no less. Like, she didn't take any counter offers or anything. And it was amazing how many yeses she got. But little by little, she got filled up on the specific experiences that she hungered for, the nutrient of connection in these various forms. And at some point I did tell her, like, we talked about sex, and I had her as an assignment, go and have sex. It was fantastic. It was amazing. And then it took its thing anymore. And she recognized, oh, okay, so sex is sex. there's this, now I can get clear on these other things that I want that I was conflating with sex, right? So that whole process opened her up.
Wow. You just froze on
Did
me.
I?
Hold on, you froze. Can you just go back to I had her go have sex. Just tell that story again.
How perfect the camera froze on that topic. Zoom always freezes on the most chargy emotional topic.
So great. So now
Every
just say. So I had her go just have sex.
Yeah.
Just do that.
So I had her just go out and have sex, and it was because that was what she was hungry for and wanting. If she got to the place where she could recognize, okay, this is what I want, and I gave her the assignment to go and have just that, and it was an amazing experience for her. It was fantastic. It was wonderful, and she got filled up on the nutrient that she was hungry for. And then sex, after that, sex took its rightful place in her psyche. It wasn't this big thing, this be all thing that was like conflated with all these other things. It took its rightful place, and then she could turn her attention to other things that she wanted. And she did end up with her dream partner. She ended up with her ideal partner.
Of course, working with you, I know that that's what's going to happen. But Ken, thank you for sharing your brilliance with us. This was a lot deeper and a lot. If you're sitting in your car listening right now and you're as sweaty as I am because of what Ken called out from you, you definitely listened and went on a journey. Would you be willing to come back and talk to us about long-term deep relationships, which I've heard countless people who have worked with you sing your praises on how you help them with deep connection. Will you come back and do that?
Okay, wait. So you're inviting me to come back onto your show and talk about my favorite subject in the world?
Yes,
Absolutely.
I am absolutely asking you to come back and talk about your favorite subject in the world. Is that a yes?
100%. Absolutely.
Great, thank you. So everybody look for that episode. That will be up soon. Thank you for joining us. If you liked the episode, please like it, leave us a review. If you have any topics that you'd like me to cover, please put those in the comments. If there's anybody you'd like me to interview, again, back in the comments. Thank you for spending the time with us. I love you and have a great rest of the day.
Likewise.